Good morning. It's Kirsten Liebelt. How are you? It is Wednesday, halfway through the week. Oh my goodness, it's halfway through the week. Amazing. So good to see you. Tanya, if you're on, good morning. If you're watching on the replay, Tanya, good morning. I know that you love to jump on and get yourself encouraged. And so I love that so much. So my name is Kirsten Liebelt, and really, in a nutshell, I help women that are over 40 with insulin resistance lose sizes. Like if we all would understand that insulin is a hormone and that obesity or just being overweight is a hormonal issue and not a calorie in, calorie out issue, even though calories, of course, they play a role in life, but we could get a lot further. Anyway, so my insulin resistance journey started in my 20s, and I didn't do anything about it until I was in my 40s. And so today, what I wanted to go through, actually, I'm going to do 10 things. I'm going to take information from Maria Emmerich. I love her information. I feel like her research is super solid, and I love her ingredient trade out ideas. So if you do not know that I'm Italian and that one of my biggest victories has been trading out food ingredients. I actually have to do this so that I can see things on TikTok. Hold on. So changing out food ingredients. It was like, I thought in my brain that was going to be the most mountainous thing that I ever did. Like it's actually why I started with supplementation first, because I thought I could never trade out my ingredients, like for real. And so I wanted to go over 10 things that happen when we just overconsume carbohydrates that she's laid out here. Super interesting, just helpful information for you. And so my housekeeping first is, if you're on the replay, let me know you're on the replay and let me know where you're coming in from, because I really love knowing that. And it's people from all over like the world. It's crazy pants how this happens. I think somebody yesterday on my business Facebook page said Italy. And I'm like, yes. Anyway, being Italian and all, Anyway, if you are a Canadian customer, and you, what was I going to say about that? I have Canadian links very specifically for you if you're a Canadian customer, but somebody ordered recently. If you see this, reach out to me, okay? If you're from Canada, I would love to have you reach out to me because I want to ask you a quick question. If you are in a state in the United States that's out of the glucose health and you have purchased the other two pieces of the trio, reach out to me, because I have inventory in my home and I will ship it to you. And always just make sure that you register with your name so that you can get all the perks. Okay, let's just go on to, this is such an interesting conversation. So Maria Emmerich, do y'all know who Maria Emmerich is? If you don't, you should. Let me know in the comments. I would love to know if you know who she is. She actually started to deal with her own PCOS and IBS, etc. Like maybe it's almost been 30 years ago now, something like that. Now, I did not have such a diagnosis. Instead, for me, I was raised by a type 2 dad who was insulin dependent, 2 shots a day. And my culture is Italian. And so my world was just food and type 2 diabetes everywhere. Like that was just common in my world. And I was raised to believe that it was genetic pretty much only. And now I understand that it's pretty much diet, almost only. Of course, there are some predispositions. I get it. However, we can like turn everything around because this is not a terminal diagnosis. So, but it does lead to bad things. So my dad ended with heart surgeries, pacemaker, and dialysis, and his functioning quality of life was not very high. And so it's kind of why I talk about the way that it's kind of why I continue to just jump on and talk about this, because I know so many people are doing. Tanya, good morning. I literally just said good morning to you, Tanya, before you got on. I'm like, and Tanya, if you're watching, good morning. That's so funny. Because we can like avoid, like, there are many things in life that happen to us that we cannot control, right? We cannot control, like if we, have a tragic accident, or if we are, sometimes we're diagnosed with things that are really, really just like that, whatever, they just happen, like they are genetic or whatever. And things are really challenging, right? This is not one of them. So I want everybody to have so much hope and so much encouragement to know that if you are insulin resistant, you can turn this around. I started my journey over 10 years ago, and this is how I start my my conversation with everybody, okay? Because you can avoid like all the connections, the gout and the PCOS, and you can turn things back. And I'm just an Italian girl who figured it out. So if I can, you can 100%. All right. So in talking about overconsumption of carbohydrates, and maybe what I'll do tomorrow is go back into the history just a tiny bit as to how we ended up with a food pyramid that was designed by the agricultural industries that tells us to just graze on carbs all day long. God didn't make bad food, right? I talk about that a lot. He didn't make bad food, but we did overconsume things and we kind of messed up our metabolic, function. I love how Maria Emmerich, when she was diagnosed a long, long time ago, she actually had this kind of a revelation. And I will go ahead and read this and tell me what y'all think. So she says, I finally decided to become an advocate for health when I took our dog, Tiva, to the vet because she was losing patches of hair. The first question that the vet asked was, what are you feeding her? What a good question. Interestingly, that same week, I had to see my family physician for severe IBS and acid reflux. My doctor tossed me some medication and sent me on my way. You know what? My doctors never asked me about what I am eating. Instead of following my doctor's advice to medicate myself to clear up my IBS and acid reflux, I took the vet's advice and changed my diet as well as my dog's. Soon enough, I was healed of my ailments. No drugs needed. Let food be thy medicine. Wendy, you're so sweet. You are amazing to be so genuinely committed to helping us. I love you, Kirsten. I love you too. I love you too. And is it Helen or is it Wendy? I would love to know. Is there a middle name in there? Is that why? I'd love to know. You're so amazing. Thank you for just being so encouraging. I so appreciate you. So anyway, so here she goes and she's like, wait a second, and shouldn't we all do this? Like if you get nothing from any of my content, take this away. Why are we not questioning more? In 2024, why aren't we questioning more? Question more. More. I started questioning when my dad passed with a Lazy Susan full of medication. That's when thank you for all of the likes, you guys on TikTok. You're so sweet. That's when I started to kind of go, wait a second, right? And I talk about that a lot. We should question more. Why is the only answer another script? And why is the only answer a higher dose? And why do we not talk about food? And when we do talk about food, why do we get information such as somebody who said, your parents named me Helen, but called me Wendy? Oh, I love that. Okay. That's wonderful. And I love the name Wendy. I think it's a beautiful name. And when it comes to food, why are we given misinformation? And this is the way that I'm going to say it. So I have somebody that type 2, and she went to her nutritionist, her diabetic nutritionist. This was a couple of years ago, and said, I'm on medication. I'm on pills, medication, and I can't keep my sugars under control. Well, what do you eat for the day? So she asks her that, and she gives her the list. And she says, oh, you're fine. You can have up to 150 grams of carbs a day. She's type 2. She said, all you have to do is stop taking the pill and you start taking this injection of insulin. And she's like, this is before the, Ozempic. This is before all of those injections. That wasn't on the conversation. And she left there and she was so mad that was what they told her. She's like, that's to her, she felt lied to. She was like, they're lying to me. I can't have 150 grams of carbs a day. And their answer is up the dose of medication and make it a stronger form. She's like, that's not okay. So let's actually just go through the 10, right? The 10 things that happen when you overconsume carbohydrates. You just have to understand. It's not that big of a deal to, okay, how do I say this? Like, sometimes we don't like when we wake up and we find out where we are, right? Okay, like for instance, we wake up one morning, and when I mean wake up, I don't mean wake up in the morning. I mean like we have a revelatory moment of ourselves and we're like Like, let's say we see a picture of ourselves and we're like, oh my gosh, I thought I was, like skinnier than that or whatever, right? And we have this revelatory moment. Well, at some point, and anybody that's on my content, if you're this many minutes into my content, it's because you already know you're insulin resistant. And I just want to say that it's like, okay, just to go, okay, fine. Okay. Insulin resistant. Let's just deal with it. Like there's no shame in the game, right? I mean, and I can tell you where a lot of it came from. And I often do with my very opinionated Italian self. And I do know all of those things. And tomorrow, I think maybe I'll go into that a little bit because I don't know if y'all have heard of Ansel Keys. Do you guys know who Ansel Keys is? I'll talk about him tomorrow. And then I'll tell you what my connection with him is. It's a really bizarre connection. Okay. And so when you cross over into insulin resistant land, just recognize the land you're living in, change the lens as to how you're viewing things. And you can literally change the way your body's functioning and you can change the way that you're finally losing weight. Okay. And before I start this, the number one thing is that I do have a challenge starting next Monday, June 3rd in the Facebook group. So if you're not in there, girls, it's a girls group, Ditch Insulin Resistance for Women. Jump in there and we'll start the challenge and we'll do some of this food stuff that I'm going to talk about, like how to fix this universe that we have. So overconsumption of carbohydrates. Here are just some of the things that result from eating too many refined carbohydrates. Number one, fatigue. Okay. So maybe we don't even understand that. That's why we're so exhausted. That's why I was napping on the living room floor in my 30s, raising my kids in the sun because it felt good, right? The most common feature of insulin resistance is that it explains exhaustion. Sometimes it's confined to just mornings or afternoons, but sometimes it's an all-day fatigue. Thank you for the follow. Thank you for the like. Brain fog. This is a really big one. And so this is actually kind of a piece of where my journey started. I started to take adaptogenic herbs for my brain fog. And this is another side note conversation to hormones that I've talked about for a long, long time. Insulin resistance can cause hair fall, like hair loss. Yes, it can, because it's hormonal. This is all hormonal. So I started to think about my other hormones, not knowing that insulin was even a hormone, taking adaptogenic herbs for my brain fog, and they ended up balancing out my hormones because they supported my adrenals. That's another conversation. You can always text the number on my profile, purple packet, and I'll tell you about that. But insulin resistance is often mental. The most evident symptom as an inability to concentrate, poor memory, and failing or poor grades in school are often a side effect of insulin resistance. And did you know that 50 years ago, the only people that had fatty liver were alcoholics? And now it's very common in our society and it's in our children. So when they're talking about school, this is a for real thing. Kids are finding themselves insulin resistant very young. And then this is causing, there's then a connection with PCOS, et cetera. And for young women, like in their 20s, that's very frustrating. Poor memory, failing poor grades in school. Are you sending your kids off to school with a bowl of cereal and skim milk? Now, this is Maria Emmerich, so this is not my information. If so, that's not a good idea. And that's what my dad, as a type 2, that's what he was eating all the time. He would eat Rice Krispies or Cheerios or cornflakes and skim milk, all very high in sugar, spiking his sugars to the moon, then injecting himself with insulin twice a day, taking a Lazy Susan full of meds, didn't even have his body regulated or balanced before he hit the road. And he was a business owner, so he worked from home until he was safe to drive. Low blood sugar, number 3. Number 1 was fatigue. Number 2 is brain fog. Number 3 is low blood sugar. So that seems weird, right? Like, why low blood sugar? Because isn't insulin resistance, doesn't over time it turn into high blood sugar? Well, feeling jittery and moody is common in insulin resistance. So jittery and moody, if that's maybe you, or you've noticed that. Once you eat, you feel immediate relief. So these are kind of like signs of insulin resistance, right? You feel immediate relief because you were jittery and moody. Does that make sense? Dizziness and craving for sweets are also caused by low blood sugar. So if you're feeling that, hi, how are you? Very nice to meet you. It's actually the name of an organization, I think, but nice to meet you. So intestinal bloating is number 4. Isn't this interesting? So most intestinal gas is produced from too many carbohydrates. People with insulin resistance who eat carbs suffer from gas and lots of it. Antacids or other remedies for symptomatic relief are not very successful in dealing with this problem. And that is actually very true. Good morning, movie mama. Good to see you. Good to see you. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything there. So that's number 4. Was that number 4? 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 5, tired after meals. The main side effect of consuming meals that contain more than 20 to 30% carbohydrates is being sleepy. I think we all know that feeling. We used to maybe always, hey, Cheryl, good to see you. We always used to think about that in terms of like, you eat Thanksgiving dinner. And then we all realize that, turkey has tryptophan in it or whatever. It makes us tired, whatever. But anyway, point being that we always think about that like as if that's normal. Like we don't think about this as maybe a side effect of something that we don't want. Your meals are more than 20 to 30% carbs if they are pasta based or include bread, potatoes, or a sweet dessert. So this was my journey. I started with targeted supplements. I did eventually trade out my ingredients, which was, to me, in my head, it was harder than it was actually. Because in my head, I thought, how will I, as an Italian girl, ever change out my ingredients and my food? Because you have an emotional connection, right? So pasta, bread, and sweet desserts, sign me up. Like, are you kidding me? That was how I was raised. That was normal. And I'm sure it's normal for you too, right? But I'm just telling you, those are the trade-outs that you can actually make. It's easier than you think it is, although it might take some time. Don't confuse something that takes time with hard. It just is what it is. Like, it might take time for your body to heal from the inside out. It may take time to learn a new language to change out your pantry, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's super hard all the time. It just means that it takes brain space, right? So that's I want you to know that. Number 6, increased fat storage and weight. And this is the one that is really the kicker for the women. So men too, but it's just that I talk to women the most. That's all. Because obviously my dad was a guy, and a lot of men in my Italian family with type 2 as well. Most of them have passed. I am so convinced that women are sliding into their 40s, and I say this a lot. They are insulin resistant. They do not know it, and they don't understand that that is a key for their weight loss. It's why you're gaining weight, and it's why you can't lose weight. So you've been told calorie in, calorie out only, or you've been told counting points only, or whatever. And certain things will work for a certain amount of time. But when insulin is a hormone, and that is the key, this is where we have to change what we're doing. Raised in a house that had pasta 6 days a week. Oh my gosh. And on the 7th, it was pasta and meat. Yes. Oh my gosh. We never had a holiday without pasta. We don't do that now. My sister and I we're now the carrier on of the family, of my immediate family, carrier ons, whatever. And so we don't do this anymore, but we always did up until actually probably just a few years ago. And we probably still do it a tiny bit for Christmas for tradition. But you always had pasta with your turkey at Thanksgiving, and you always had pasta with your ham at Easter. Like, you always did that. So anyway, kind of funny. But the most evident symptom in men is a large abdomen, and in women, fat is stored on the hips and the thighs. But you know what? I mean, and she wrote this, what year was this? This is recent, 2018. So that's not very old, but I would say that I talk to a lot of women with belly fat. So it's not just men, but men do get that very large, hard abdomen when they are continuing their insulin resistance. And so a lot of fat storage. And so you can turn that back around though. You can reinvent yourself. You can reinvent the way that you have a relationship with food. And you can do it without feeling shame for the things that you were taught as a child. You know, your body's not broken. Some people will say that to me. They feel broken. You're not broken. You just need a different path. That's all. And that's what I talk about all the time. Increased triglycerides, even people who aren't overweight, because not everybody that's insulin resistant is overweight. It's a smaller portion of people, but not everybody is overweight. So even people who aren't overweight can have excess fat in their arteries because of insulin resistance. Not because of eating animal fat, but because of insulin resistance. It's a completely different conversation as to how this is happening. And so actually a better score is like it's a CAC score, calcium artery. What's that called? It doesn't matter. I'll have to look that up. I'll come back with that. But that's a CAC test is a really good test to know actually what's going on in your arteries. And you can have higher cholesterol, but have a really good CAC score that tells you that your arteries are clear. That's another conversation. Increased blood pressure. So when you turn these things back, I just had this testimony. I literally just posted it. I wish I had another device so I could look it up. I literally just posted it in my stories on IG and FB. So you guys can all jump over to IG and see stuff over there that's whatever, a little more expanded, because here I can't put on TikTok, I can't put stuff here the same way. But on my stories over there, I had done a testimony that was she started the trio are the 3 supplements that have the 3 ingredients that help with insulin sensitivity. I started those over 10 years ago and I still take them to this day. But she literally just said to me, my blood pressure is down. And so you have to understand we're dealing with the root so that you can get the answer over here on other things. Movie Mama, thank you for all the hearts. You're amazing. I appreciate all the likes. Doctors now recognize that most people with hypertension, listen up if you have high blood pressure, have too much insulin and they are insulin resistant. And remember, insulin is a hormone. There's often a direct relationship between insulin level and blood pressure. So if you can get your insulin and your sugars to come down, you can turn back certain symptoms like that, and you can finally lose weight. And that's exactly what I talk about with people all the time. I started with targeted supplements. I traded out my foods. I teach both in the Facebook group. We do both. Next challenge starts next Monday. Thank you for the heart. I love you too. Super interesting though, right? Because we're just told you have HBP, just like mellow out on the salt. That's in insulin levels. As insulin levels increase, so does blood pressure. Okay. Number 9, you guys, sadness, the D word. I don't know if I can say that on TikTok. D word. You know what I mean, right? Carbohydrates are a natural downer, which depress the brain. Depressed people often also suffer from insulin resistance. Did you know that there is a connection between like overconsumption of carbs and sadness? Carbohydrates change the brain chemistry, producing a depressed or tired feeling. On the flip side, protein is a brain stimulant, which picks you up mentally. Literally your mental health. Cheryl, you watched the masterclass on my Facebook page, but I could not read the names. Oh yeah, Cheryl, I'll totally get you that information. I'm so sorry. That is true. Okay, I'll get you that information. For sure. For sure. But isn't that interesting that you literally can have a mental health change and pick me up by just changing some of the ways that you eat? Super interesting. Yeah, you are welcome. And the last one is addiction. Number 10, insulin resistance is also prevalent in people addicted to alcohol, caffeine, cigarettes, or other drugs. Often the alcohol addiction is said as secondary to insulin resistance. The true addiction, sugar, was never kicked. And that is definitely very true. I don't think a lot of people would necessarily argue with that, because, you know, even just in Movie Mama, you're just amazing. Because even in, if you think about, I have somebody close to me that is a recovering alcoholic, and he's been sober for a very, very, very long time. But it's very clear that he just switched his addiction to sugar and carbohydrates. And also too, I think that, when we do have like recovery programs, there are a lot of donuts being served, et cetera. And that's probably a super generalized statement, because I've never been in one, but I feel like that's a common conversation that I've had with people. So just in my little small world of conversation, that is true. But if it's not true for you, obviously, if that wasn't true, if they were serving, steak at your whatever, that's great. But that's anyway. So super interesting though, because all of these different things that happen to us when we are just in overconsumption of carbohydrate land, I don't think that we even connect them all. And I feel like if the more we know, the more we're able to actually kind of turn things back around and to make a difference. I mean, the mental health conversation alone, if that was the only one that I picked out of that entire list, it would be worthy of its own conversation. And maybe it just needs to be. I've seen actually recently a real influx of TikToks that have people that are doing carnivore, and I am not carnivore, but I know the tenets of carnivore. And they're young, they're in their 20s, and they're talking about their mental health finally being better for the first time because they didn't know, just like I didn't know when I started trading things out, when I started making a difference, like in my own insulin resistance. I didn't even know that insulin resistance was a terminology. Like I was super naive. I was super disconnected from my body. I was super unaware. Like I didn't know any of this stuff. And I'm 59 now. So this was back in my 40s. And I'm like, what? Like I don't know how else to explain it. I just didn't. And so basically, I would not have put that together either. I would not have understood the things that were going to get better when I started to turn everything back around. Like when I started to, target my supplementation instead of taking a lot of ibuprofen and, banned weight loss meds. Oh my gosh, that's so bad for your gut. But anyway, when I started to do that and, your appetite starts to come into control, your sugar cravings start to the hamster wheel kind of starts to slow down a little bit. Your brain starts to clear up and you're like, okay, now I can actually think straight enough so that my mind is calm about food so that I can actually begin to trade out ingredients. And I did that only for a while before I convinced myself that I actually could take a stab at this. Because never before in my life, ever, maybe one time. And let me think about this. Do I have a picture by me? I don't know that I do. I found a picture the other day of when I was in my 20s. And I thought I set it up by my stuff here, but I don't think I did. Let me see. One time in my 20s, I lost a good amount of weight. Here it is. Oh my gosh, here it is. It's going to be backwards, so it doesn't matter. It's the picture, right? It's people. In my 20s, at one point, okay, after which child is this? I think I had all 3 kids. I did. Yes. Okay, this, you guys, I just found this yesterday or the day before. Doesn't matter. This is when my father died. So I'm 30 years old. Somehow I lost weight. I think I did calorie deficit at the time. I had been insulin resistant in my early 20s. I think I kind of starved myself and I lost weight so that at his funeral, because this is literally at his funeral, I cannot believe that I found this and that this connects. I actually had lost weight. And then after this, I never lost weight again as I went into my 30s and my 40s. But here I am with the really permed hair, and look behind me and notice the cigarette vending machine. This is really wild. Facebook, I'll show you first. So that's me, obviously, with the really, like right here. This is me right there. And I don't remember what size I was, but I did lose weight. And then in my, here, TikTok, right there. That's me. And then in my 30s, I started gaining weight like a crazy person. And I was so insulin resistant. Actually, I can show both of you at the same time. I'm right there. And I go into my 40s My mom is all over me about my sugars. She had no idea how to trade out her foods. I did this for a minute and a half. About a minute and a half, that was me. And I did it through, I think my husband in that January, because this was July, I think in January, he went on a missions trip. I'm having a memory right now. Join me. And while he was gone for a few weeks, I lost a bunch of weight. And then I kind of continued. And that was probably the last time I had ever been, whatever. And then in my 40s, my mom is like, Kirsten, do you ever, hello, Joyce, good to see you. Good to see you. And she's like, Kirsten, do you ever get your sugars checked? Kind of like, your dad died. Movie mama, you're a liking queen today. Thank you so much for your support. You're amazing. My dad died when I was 30. So I'm in my 40s and she's like, Kirsten, hello, what are you doing? Like, you're gaining weight. Do you ever even, you try? Well, you're doing a good job. She's like, do you even go to the doctor and get your sugars checked? Do you ever even do this? Do you ever like what's wrong with you kind of, like, why aren't you paying attention? And I really do believe that in my brain, I was overcoming the belief system that it was all genetics. Okay, sarah, whatever's going to happen is going to happen, right? I mean, like, that's just the way that this is. And, but yet I had enough information because I had earlier decided that, not knowing insulin was a hormone, earlier I had decided in my upper 30s that I was not going to be the crazy lady going through menopause. Had no idea what that meant, had no idea how that was going to happen. I just kind of decided one day, I saw some women that were about 10 years my senior, and they were crazy pants. They were cuckoo bananas. They were super moody and just a hot mess express. And I remember seeing that and going, that won't be me. Why I would even, literally, my supplements were ibuprofen and Metabolife, which is a banned weight loss med. Why I thought I was going to figure that out. But God brought me tools. So I ended up finding like Suzanne Summers information. Do you guys remember Suzanne Summers? She just passed away recently. But she herself had breast cancer, and she started delving into all of the information about hormones, etc. So I bought her book, put it on my shelf. It's still here. Never read it. I mean, I have now, but at that time, never read it. Never even, I just wanted the information available for when I got there. In the meantime, my mom won't let me do, she won't keep me alone, whatever. Won't stop talking about my sugars. I don't know insulin is a hormone. I'm super naive. I'm super unaware. I'm super disconnected. But yet I am, did you do Metabolife too? That is so funny. About a month ago, I finally had to ask my girlfriend that was with me in my 30s when we were raising our kids. I'm like, what was the name of that weight loss med that got banned? And she knew right away. So I found a picture of it. And anyway, kind of funny. And so I started supplementation because I honestly, you guys, it was my path of least resistance. And, that's, they always said, if there was a magic pill, everybody would take it and all this stuff. But yet something inside of me was like, you're probably not going to do like Monday morning lose weight, because that was not my MO. I did this one time. So for 15 years straight, I didn't do this again. So I was not the, Monday morning, that's just it. I'm a disciplined person. I know how to have a really good routine with supplements. No, that was not me. Poster child of sugar addiction. I was not disciplined. I did not know how to have a routine of any sort. And it took me time. And if time's going to pass anyway, give yourself the benefit of the doubt to have time, right? Like, give yourself opportunity to have grace on yourself as you walk this journey. Don't be so quick to throw your possibility in the garbage because of past behavior. You can reinvent yourself right now. right now you can decide, I'm going to be in a different place by the end of this year. I'm going to be in a different place by whenever. Like, what if it even took you, Julie, good to see you. What if it even took you a full year to really heal some things and to really be able to turn back? Okay. The time's going to pass anyway. I'm just telling you. So next Monday, June 3rd, I go again for another free challenge in my Facebook group. I do it every single month, and June is my 1-year anniversary. We'll go through ingredient trade-outs. I will teach you how to supplement targeted supplementation, so that you can actually have a place to start. You can actually speed up your process like I did. I'll teach you that, but then I'll also teach you ingredient trade-outs, and I'll take you into my pantry and my fridge. And it's called Ditch Insulin Resistance for Women. So jump in there, and I want to see you on June 3rd. Monday, and it's going to be a 4-day challenge this month. It's usually a 5-day challenge, but I'm going to do 4 days because I'm leaving town and on a business trip. And when you get in there, you'll get tagged in a PDF of free recipes and pantry ideas. I'm just telling you, let's set you up for success. You lost over 30 pounds with Nutrisystem in your 20s, and you think you did them all. I know. And so I'm so glad you said that, because I never purchased it, but my sister did, and she had a bunch of the leftover food, and she was giving it to me like months later after she decided she wasn't going to do that. And I remember trying some of it and being really not like, I didn't like it, but I don't really know a ton about it, but this is where I come from. So if you are insulin resistant and you are on my content, the girl in her 20s who was talking to you about how to do high intensity cardio and doing all of these things, it's probably not for you, because now you're insulin resistant. Insulin is a hormone. Cortisol is a hormone. It's your stress hormone. Working out is different when you're perimenopausal and menopausal. Somebody who's telling you to, only count points, and she talks about that in here. She talks about how many of our clients come to us after trying WW. They find that it worked for a while, but now they've reached a weight plateau and they can't lose any more weight. Counting points isn't helpful for your biochemistry. Saving up all your points for a milkshake isn't going to enhance your physique, even if you eat only 800 calories a day. Those calories shouldn't come from trans fat and sugar. We don't understand the science behind giving 5 cups of plain popcorn only 1 point. That 5 cups of popcorn becomes more than 9 teaspoons of sugar in your blood. So it's a different conversation. So that's, I'm a very narrow conversationalist, and I am not for everybody, because if you are not insulin resistant, this conversation maybe just doesn't even apply to you, right? But the other thing is true for that system that she's talking about, Nutrisystem. I can give you a fish. I can give you a prepackaged program with processed food, or I can teach you how to fish and how to turn your kitchen into a real food, a real nutrient-dense kitchen, so that you can actually begin to fuel your body and make your hormones just go, your hormones will feel good. Your mental health feels better. You begin to bring down your sugars and your insulin, which is a hormone, and inflammatory, so that you can actually lose weight, because otherwise you're stuck. So some conversations are just not for you, but that's why there's so much noise. So when you get super narrow like this, you actually find a lot of freedom in it. You were supposed to go to Texas yesterday, canceled due to bad weather. Oh man, that is such a bummer. Such a bummer. Thank you for the follow. You were stuck for sure. Yep. User, I don't know a lot about that system. The only thing that I know is that they're recommending fiber to actually change things. And I kind of disagree with that, but that's just because of my studies for years now with Maria Emmerich, because there's a total fiber myth. And actually a lot of people who suffer with IBS and things like that, it's actually going against. So there are a lot of people who have autoimmune issues that, well, I won't even go into that, because then I speak about a wheelhouse that's not mine. I have a completely different thought process. I have a completely different foundation of conversation for people. And that's just me. And also too, I don't like the conversation, and I'm not saying that that's their conversation, I personally do not like the conversation of all you have to do is this and you can eat whatever you want. It's not a healthy conversation. I know that I know what I went through to trade out my ingredients and my recipes as an Italian girl. And I'm telling you, I want you to hear me when I say, not only have I turned back the insulin resistance, but because I'm completely grain and sugar free and I've learned how to fish, I now have a key for life, not a fix for now. And I wake up every morning at 59 years old and I don't ache. And I wish that I could somehow bottle that feeling and open it up for people to like take a sip to understand what that feels like. I literally don't ache. My wrists and my fingers ached all the time. So continuing in a cycle of eating eating whatever you want may not be getting you the results for the function that you were looking for. Maybe you work with one area and one area gets better. But for me, that's not good enough. Cheryl, yeah. She says she has Crohn's and fiber is not her friend. I know. And because it's been so ingrained in us, I so punny, but we've been so indoctrinated to believe that that's the key to everything. We have a really hard time turning back some of the things that have been marketed to us as ideas when it comes to a food pyramid or all sorts of things. And it's not true. And it's not true starting at birth. Breast milk doesn't have fiber in it. It's literally high fat for the brain anyway. And I'm not even saying you need, user, you need me in your life. Well, you know what? If you're a female, jump into the Facebook group for real. Jump into the Facebook group. Kristen, you're so sweet. You're so sweet. Well, you know what? This is the deal. So everybody stirs with something inside of them. And because my story is just my story, my life was just my life. I didn't know any different. I didn't know what it was like to not be Italian and to not have massive amounts of food and to not celebrate or mourn without food. I didn't know any of that, right? Like that was just my life. And so when I started to question things, I became a geek, and I used to apologize for being a geek for a very long time. You'll probably still even hear me say it sometimes, because I became such a geek about things that like my supplementation routine that I do for my own engine, to keep my own engine going and to teach other people how to target. Like, don't just take a bunch of supplements that don't matter. Let's just target, like let's nail down what you are taking supplements for, so that you can literally affect your insulin resistance and turn towards insulin sensitivity. When I started to do things like that, I kind of really began to study. And I'm like, what? This is the opposite of what I've been taught. This is what? Like, I wish my dad would have known this. What? I should be taking that? What? Like, that's kind of what happened to me. And I kind of started my food trade out right shy of 51. And now I'm 59. And I wish I would have understood this when my dad was alive. I could have helped him. Now, however, because of my studies, my mama, who passed away a year ago at 94 with dementia, and we took care of her in my sister's home and then in my home, after she had been in some facilities. And then at 2020, we pulled her out. Best decision of our entire life. We saw the writing on the wall. That's another conversation for another day. And we were right. Not because we were so smart, but I feel like we were given wisdom. We saw it right away in May of 2020. Oh yeah, no. They'll take her from us. And so we just took her out. But we were able to, because of our own research and because of our own questions, we changed her diet. We just got her off of meds. We took her to the doctor. We brought her A1C down. We did all the things because now we had information. And we were like, And one of the things that kind of triggered me a tiny bit was when we took her to the doctor, and it was very challenging to take her. Okay. Physically, really, really challenging. Okay. And what I mean by that is she was having, she couldn't walk very well. Dementia can cause a lot of anxiety. And so sometimes that creates messes. And so taking her to the doctor was a challenge. But we did it, of course, right? We're going to go get her blood drawn. We're going to ask questions. We're going to make sure she's taken care of, all of these things, because we are now her guardians. So I took her, and the doctor said, oh, wow, her A1C is in check or whatever. You should still probably bring her back for her regular tests in a few months, and da, 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 da. And I thought to myself, she's still on the system. She's still on the, you know what I mean? Like another office visit, another copay, another. And I was like, and I went home and I told my sister that, and I said, yeah, we won't be doing that. And I think at the time I'm going to make it up, but I think I'm right. I think she was 91. And I'm like, we're doing a better job for her than anybody will ever do for her. And we're doing it without prescribing her anything more, or like it was a super sales pitch, and I did not appreciate that at all. And so anyway, I just say that because, my story is just my story. Like, I don't know any different, You want me in your life too, Lori? Get it? Are you in the Facebook group, Lori? Ditch insulin resistance for women. I'll be in your life. I'll be your friend. I will still be your friend, and I will teach you everything that I know. And you do not have to be on the trio to take a part of the challenge. You don't have to be taking the targeted supplementation to be a part of the challenge. But if you want to have that information more, you can always text the number on my profile. You can always leave me a message on Facebook. You can always reach out to me. My DMs in Instagram. If you want to know the testimonies, jump over to IG, and there's a highlight bubble that's pink at the top, and it will show you the testimonies of people who start on the 3 supplements that have the 3 ingredients that help with insulin sensitivity, and you for yourself can see. But you do not have to have that in order to just take advantage of the free challenges that I do at the beginning of every month, so that you can take down that month, so that you can add months together, so that you can get to a different spot in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. Like, have a track to run on, have somebody in your back pocket, have somebody who's like, knows emotional connection to food that can help you walk through it, right? Like, those are the things. You're joining on June 3rd. Yay! Do I ever get to the point where I eat sugar like a piece of birthday cake? This is so fascinating. That question is so good. Good morning, Anna. First of all, hold on. I have to answer somebody else's question first, Wendy. Does this apply if you've had a complete hysterectomy? It absolutely 100% applies if you've had a hysterectomy. Insulin is a hormone. I wish all of y'all, every single one of you would say to yourself today, oh my stars, insulin is a hormone. This now makes so much sense. In my 40s, when all of my hormones went upside down, light bulb. That's what I want all of you women to do, because you know what? You're not crazy. You're not broken. You're not lazy. You're not confused. There's nothing wrong with you. What's wrong is the lack of information or the misinformation. And what I do is I just take everything that I've learned when it comes to food, and I executed my new way of viewing food and blood sugars and insulin resistance, and now I teach it. So you just need a different plan. You just need a different track to run on. And then you're going to have to get yourself a good dose of grace. You're going to have to kind of get yourself a little bit of mental toughness to go the distance. I will never, ever say, even though people get amazing results that are fast, and I'm so grateful for those testimonies, I really am. but I'm never going to make promises, and I'm never going to tell somebody this is a quick fix. But it is a track, and we can do it together. Lori, text me and I will actually send you I can send you a cart. Text that number that's on my profile. I'm glad you take supplements, because seriously, supplements changed my life. They changed my life. So I can always talk to people about exactly what they're taking so that you guys can know. So hold on. Betty, will you message me in Instagram? Because when I get off of here, your comment will go away, and I'm so sorry. Okay, so do I ever eat birthday cake? I'm just going to give you the fast answer, and I'm just going to rip the Band-Aid off. I don't. But I'm going to tell you why. Short of 51, I started with changing out my ingredients, and it took me a handful of years to do it. I didn't think to myself, I'm going to take a handful of years and trade out my ingredients. And that wasn't at all what I was doing. All I was doing was, oh, dear Lord, the fat pockets get worse. That was me. Are you kidding me? Like, menopause? Oh, this is not happy. And I'm like, I've got to do something about, the way that I'm feeling. I got to do something about, I got to do something finally. So I decided I was going to ditch processed food. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to get rid of processed food in general. And I was definitely, for a couple of years, I was still eating, I always talk about it, like way too many sweet potatoes, natural sugars in fruits, dates. Like I'm going to go to coconut sugar instead of white sugar. I'm going to go to, maple syrup and honey instead of, I did all of that. Me, who had no knowledge of anything. And I just realized that wasn't taking me where I wanted to go. So I found somebody like Maria Emmerich, and I love her. This is actually her keto book. This is not a cookbook, but she has a lot of cookbooks, and I have them up here that I work with my customers with, and I use in like the Facebook group and stuff. And I started to trade out my ingredients. And I've done reels on this and stuff, but I asked myself, what are the foods that I really loved that I wanted to trade out? Like for me, it was really sugar. I talk about the 7-layer bar a lot, and I just found different versions. I found keto versions. So I'm like, okay, fine. I'll learn how to make something different. Fine. And it took me, I didn't have live video like this. I didn't have a Facebook group. I didn't join anything. I didn't join a program or a system or a prepackaged food deal. I didn't do anything. All I had was, I had my supplements that I was taking. My cravings are diminishing. My appetite is going down. My mind is calm about food, which was the first time in a very long time. As my culture, my heritage, whatever, my habits. I'll just say that my habits had me chasing carbs, chasing like a hamster wheel. And all of a sudden, things are shifting for me, and I'm like, I should probably figure out what kind of got me into this pickle to begin with. So as I'm trading out ingredients and I'm realizing that I still need to tweak, I eventually had nothing to do with willpower. It was 100%. I tweaked enough that my pantry changed. It's actually why in the Facebook group, when I do a challenge every month, I take you into my pantry and my fridge, because not because I'm white knuckling anything. I'm not. Like, I legitimately don't care anymore, because I already know how to trade out my universe. Like, if I want a piece of birthday cake, I'll make myself a chocolate cake. I'll make Maria Emmerich's chocolate blender cake. I'll make myself a microwave mug. I'll make myself, you know what I mean? Like, I live in 2024, and every ingredient is available to me, humanly possible, at Walmart. Like, it's all available. And then the last thing that I will say is I did spend a lot. I spent those years, and I will tell you this was a tool. For those of you who do go on and order the trio, and if you are having a hard time shifting your ingredients, add the carb blocker. Just Trust me. And everything has a 6-month guarantee. So there's no risk in anything that you're doing here. This is not a risky endeavor. It's a super simple thought process. What's hard is your own mind. What's hard are your own routines and habits. But over time, they literally do just shift. Think about that. They say 21 days, new habit. I don't really believe that. 21 days is not long enough for some things because we can get triggered by social environments. And so that's why I always had carb blocker in my pockets for years. And I would take out my winter coat from, storage, not really storage, but from the other closet, from the winter closet. It's October, I'm in Minnesota. You take out that winter coat because it's starting to get chilly and you're going to need it soon. And there's always that possibility of snow coming any second now. And I would take out my coat and put it into my, rotate my closet, and in the pockets, year after year after year, I had carb blocker, and I just kept them there so that I could do two things. Number one, the physical answer to that is I could stop the spike of sugar from happening. It would put a ceiling on my sugar spike in the moment that I ate, for that moment, not for long term, just for that moment. You take 1, 2, or 3 of them and it will block up to 500 calories of sugar from hitting your bloodstream. I've actually had somebody test their blood sugar. And I started this a long time ago. So I'm still doing the exact same things. Nothing's changed. But it will stop the spike in the moment. But then I could, number 2, choose, and this is what I did, no shame about making whatever decision I made in that moment in that social environment. So if this weekend I find out that somebody's having a wedding, and let's say I'm back in those years of me still having carb blocker in my pockets, I would be like, there would be no, oh man, what am I going to do? There's no way I can say no to that cake. I love frosting more than life itself. I mean, come on, I'm not the only one that thinks frosting is the most amazing, and especially wedding cakes, right? Like a buttercream frosting. Are you kidding me? Right? But I had not learned my language yet enough to make my own. Like I hadn't gotten there yet. It's okay. So carb blocker in the pockets, they would go, or in my purse, right? And then I would just go and enjoy the social event. And then I would come home and I would learn another trick, another ingredient trade out. These are just the things that I share in the Facebook group. That's the whole point. The whole point is to say, you can do this too, just like me. Just like me. So, I mean, I know that might be a disappointing answer for some people, but I really don't. And you can't talk me out of it. I used to be very easily moved by food pushers. Does anybody have a food pusher in their life? I would love to know. Do I eat good fats and protein, mostly low glycemic foods? Yes. High protein first. Not first let me clarify. Not first in rotation of food. I don't do any of that. High protein in priority. Then moderate good fats, not so high fat that I can't lose fat. Like this is a Maria Emmerich thought process. This is why this is not the fad keto, not the marketed keto that sells you keto-friendly foods that actually aren't, and they're spiking your sugars, and not the high-fat keto, which was developed for epilepsy and has a place. It's just harder to lose weight on that. So for people who are doing a lot of bulletproof coffee and a lot of the fat bombs and whatever, Maria Emmerich teaches a beautiful way of doing keto where you use fat for your hormone happiness and for your satiety so that you just feel satiated. And I'm just telling you, like, there's this well-being of feeling nourished. And everything is real food for me. And then low carb, yeah. Because now I've gone from a 2X down to a large in my 50s, post-cycle stopping. And I did 2 things. I've used targeted supplements, and I just keep on targeting, target. And I switched out my food ingredients, and I won't go back. But the reason why I won't go back, it's because I feel so amazing. I'm not a crazy person anymore. I don't have anxiety. I don't have sadness. I don't have confusion. I don't have brain fog. I don't have achy joints. I get down on the floor with my grandbabies. I know how to take adaptogenic herbs to function at a higher level all the time. Like my quality of life now, you can't convince me to go back. Work is your trigger. And if you don't eat enough protein, yep. And you just have to know that about yourself, right? And that's what I did in those years of assessing myself. I literally would do this. Oh, please repeat where and what to join on June 3rd. So I have a Facebook group and it's called Ditch Insulin Resistance for Women. And when you get in there, you'll get tagged in a free PDF that has recipes and pantry ideas. It's just my free gift to you. Every month I do a free challenge at the beginning of the month so that you can take on that month. Be encouraged for a month, and then we'll do it again at the next month so that you feel like you have a track to run on, so that you feel like you have support and encouragement. I do teach targeted supplementation in there. That's where I started. That's where I'm going to start with everybody else. I am going to teach you. You don't have to, but I will tell you it can speed up your process. That's all I'm saying with that. So that's what, and my next one is, oh, Kristen, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. Honestly, you're saying such kind things. And so anyway, so get into the Facebook group so that you can, hold on. I have to do something for TikTok to verify that I'm a real person. Those years that I was changing out my ingredients, and Monday, June 3rd is the beginning of the next challenge, I would ask myself questions. Don't be afraid to it's in your head anyway. You don't have to voice it to anybody else, but just allow yourself to ask questions like, why did that trigger me? Why did that bother me? And just don't allow shame to enter in. Just answer the question. Oh, that's right. When I was a little girl, I was told, I was taught, I was looked at, I was, whatever it is for you, like just allow yourself to have that emotion of, yes, June 23rd, 2024. Yeah. Oh, 2:00 Central Standard Time. I go live, and I'll go live June 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th at 2:00 Central Standard Time every day for those 4 days. And then usually I do a 5-day challenge. This one's a 4-day challenge. So, and then you can watch the replay. The replay will be in the group. I was just in my head thinking, as long as Zoom allows me to, I think I figured it out. Anyway, Facebook groups changed a few rules. Anyway, it's all good. Just allow yourself to answer some of those questions and be okay with that. And just know you're not alone. You're not alone in the fact that you maybe have to quiet your mind long enough to have a conversation with yourself. Because then what you acknowledge, you can overcome. And it doesn't matter what somebody said to you. It doesn't matter what somebody looked at you like, or what somebody not said, but it doesn't matter what they look, what kind of a disapproving look they gave you over and over again. It doesn't matter what you were taught about, food a certain way and whatever. Just choose that you're not going to allow those self-sabotaging pieces of your life to affect you anymore. And it doesn't mean that it's immediately it's done. Just know that you're working on it. Just keep on working on it. Just keep on going at it until everything shifts. I mean, that's the best thing that I did for myself, was I allowed myself this grace that just lasted for a really long time. And I just kept choosing it over and over again. This grace that would just say, you don't have to feel shame about the things that you were taught as a little girl. And you can literally become a completely different person. I am such a different person than I was even 10 years ago. But I did the work. I did the work of my mind. I did the work of my heart. And I just answered questions. There's actually a really good book out there. It's called Self-Sabotage No More. And it is by, Jenny Potter. That's a good book. You can get that on Amazon. So Betty, I think I already answered. You have to, anybody on Instagram, you can message me for the supplements on Instagram because Instagram rocks. Facebook, you can put it in the comments and I'll see it there. And TikTok, you have to like either jump over to IG or there's a number you can text on my page because they don't allow me to send links and stuff. Donna, same thing. Just message me, please. Yes, thyroid is a connection. And one of the targeted supplements that I work with that are in the trio actually helps with your liver. And a lot of people don't know that thyroid hormones are converted in your liver. So getting to the root of where everything starts, user 843-875-461-0280. I love that. That makes me think of that song. 8675309. Everybody remembers that, right? There's a number on, you can do a couple of different things. You can either jump over to IG and text me, DM me and say, I was on your TikTok live and will you send me that cart for those 3 supplements that help with insulin sensitivity? Or there's a phone number on my page. You can click on my face up here and then you can text me and go, hey, I was on your live. You can do it either way. That's perfect. You needed that answer from me. Ditch the refined sugar and grains. I know. Yeah, I know. And you probably said that a while ago. I'm just looking at it now, but Wendy, yeah, I know. And you know what? It's just the way that it is. It's just the way that it is. I'm just going to tell you the truth because keeping you from then again, I'm just going to go back and then I'll let you guys go. The reason why I do take you into my pantry and my fridge is, yeah, Jenny's number, right? What's your number? Yep. Anyway, visual aid is very helpful. Show and tell is very helpful, but also too, like this literally is my life. Like it's for real. But I love it so much. And when I get texts or pictures of somebody that's making food that is now making them feel so much better, it just makes me so dang happy. And when I can help insulin resistant women lose sizes, I'm the one that avoided type 2 in my family. So I was gestational with my first baby and I would take my sugars 4 times a day. Text my blood 4 times a day when I was pregnant with my first. And he was a big boy, 913. Oy vey. But I now am not, and I never have been, and I never will be. But it's because I started to target what was happening in my body. And then I took this journey of food trade outs. So saying that, I am so grateful for those of you that are on the trio that can text me and tell me about your sugars going down because you're testing your sugars. Your data is very important to me because then I'm able to say to somebody else who is type 2 and testing their sugars, listen, go look at the testimonies. Go to the highlight bubble at the top of the Instagram page. It's pink. Go look at the testimonies of somebody who their sugars went down 30 points in the morning. The morning sugars are the hardest. Go look at those things because that will give you hope in your heart. Like you need to be encouraged. You need to stop feeling like there's so much noise, you'll never make it through the noise barrier. There's so much. My video was flagged for personal information. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. TikTok is so bizarre. You are welcome. You are so welcome. I just got flagged for something on TikTok. I don't know what that means, but you don't have to. I try to speak in code enough. I try. But anyway, sometimes you just can't have it. Whatever. Your husband must be a saint. He sounds so supportive. We are going to be successful because we are so dedicated. Thank you. You know, my husband is amazing. But he hasn't been eating like me he kind of started recently this year, but I'm going to tell you, it's because a lot of the foods that I make, he loves. Like I make something and he's like, oh my gosh, that tastes amazing. I'm like, I know. So then he would eat what I made because he thought it was amazing. And then he would go off and eat whatever. Well, eventually he ended up realizing that um, he needed to go gluten-free because he was just reacting, and he narrowed it down to gluten. And that has now made such a difference in his life. So now he understands how food is affecting him. And that's where this has gone. So he actually is eating more like me than he wasn't, but he's always been supportive of me trying things. Like, what does he care? And I'm an empty nester, so it's not like I have to cook different meals for children. If he wanted to add, pasta to his life, or if he wanted to eat all the buns or all the whatever, he can do whatever he wants. I'm on my own journey. And I needed to be, and I'm so glad that I did. But he is amazing. I will say that. And we have been married 37 years in August of this year. And yeah, he does happen to be quite the catch. So not going to lie about that. Anyway, okay, I'm going to let you guys go. Have a wonderful day. If you need anything, go ahead and DM me. And maybe my violation was trying to tell you guys to go over to that I word platform. I don't know, but go over to the I word platform, because you can see things are not quite the same on TT. And but that's how I can connect with people. It's just the way that it is. Bye. Have a really good day. Be super, super blessed. And I'll chat with you guys tomorrow and get into the group, because then we can do the challenge together starting on Monday, June 3rd. See y'all later. Have a blessed day. You too. Facebook is always the hardest. Okay. See you later. Have a